Hello, my name is Brakimia Boynton, and my presentation will be over shooting a basketball free throw. A free throw is an unopposed shot taken behind the 15 feet line from the basket when a basketball player has been fouled. It's also known as a foul shot and it's worth 1 point. A free throw can be broken down into three phases: the preparation phase, the action phase, and the follow through phase. All of the motions involved in shooting a free throw in the preparation phase are the shoulder at the neutral position, elbow flexion, wrist extension, hip flexion, knee flexion, and ankle dorsiflexion. All of the motions involved in shooting a free throw in the action phase are shoulder flexion, elbow extension of the dominant arm, wrist extension of the dominant arm, hip extension, knee extension, and ankle plantar flexion. All of the motions involved in shooting a free throw in the follow through phase are shoulder flexion, elbow extension of the dominant arm, wrist flexion of the dominant arm, hip extension, knee extension, and ankle plantar flexion. The primary muscles involved while the shoulder is at the neutral position includes the supraspinatus, the subscapularis, the infraspinatus, and the teres minor, which together make up the rotator cuff muscles. In shoulder flexion, the primary movers are the clavicular portion of the pectoralis major and the anterior deltoid. In elbow flexion, the primary movers are the biceps brachii and the brachialis, with some assistance from the brachioradialis. In elbow extension, the primary movers are the triceps brachii, with some assistance from the anconeus. In wrist flexion, the primary movers are the flexor carpi ulnaris and the flexor carpi radialis, with some assistance from the flexor digitorum superficialis. In wrist extension, the primary movers are the extensor digitorum, with some assistance from the extensor carpi ulnaris and the extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis. The primary muscles involved in hip flexion is the iliopsoas, with some assistance from the sartorius and the rectus femoris. In hip extension, the primary movers are the gluteus maximus and the biceps femoris, with some assistance from the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus, which are the hamstring muscles. In knee flexion, the primary movers are the hamstring muscles, which again include the semimembranosus, the semitendinosus, and the biceps femoris. In knee extension, the primary movers are the quadricep muscles, which include the rectus femoris, the vastus lateralis, the vastus intermedius, and the vastus medialis. In ankle dorsiflexion, the primary mover is the tibialis anterior, with some assistance from the extensor digitorum longus and the peroneus tertius. In ankle plantar flexion, the primary movers are the gastrocnemius and the soleus. This shows the location of some of the muscles previously listed. In the preparation phase, while the shoulder is at the neutral position, the rotator cuff muscles isometrically contract, the elbow flexors concentrically contract, the wrist extensors concentrically contract, the hip flexors eccentrically contract, the knee flexors eccentrically contract, and the ankle dorsiflexors eccentrically contract. In the action phase, the shoulder flexors concentrically contract, the elbow extensors concentrically contract, the wrist extensors concentrically contract, the hip extensors concentrically contract, the knee extensors concentrically contract, and the ankle plantar flexors concentrically contract. In the follow through phase, the shoulder flexors concentrically contract, the elbow extensors concentrically contract, the wrist flexors concentrically contract, the hip extensors concentrically contract, the knee extensors concentrically contract, and the ankle plantar flexors concentrically contract. The force couple being utilized to produce shoulder flexion in shooting a free throw accompanies scapular upward rotation. The muscles involved in scapular upward rotation are the upper trapezius, which pulls the scapula anteriorly and medially, the lower trapezius, which pulls the scapula posteriorly, and the serratus anterior, which pulls the scapula laterally. Here are some exercises that could be done to strengthen the targeted muscles for optimal performance during shooting a free throw. For the shoulder flexors, you can perform a resisted shoulder flexion exercise using a TheraBand. For the wrist flexors, you can perform wrist curls with the free weight. For the hip extensors, you can perform a bridge with your toes pointed. For the knee extensors, you can perform a squat. For the elbow extensors, you can perform resisted elbow extension using a TheraBand. And for the ankle plantar flexors, you can perform calf raises. Here are some exercises that could be done to lengthen the targeted muscles for optimal performance during shooting a free throw. For the wrist flexors, you can perform a wrist stretch. For the hip extensors, you can perform a gluteus maximus stretch. For the shoulder flexors, you can perform a doorway stretch. For the knee extensors, you can perform a quadriceps stretch. For the ankle plantar flexors, you can perform a wall calf stretch. For the elbow extensors, you can perform a triceps brachii stretch. Hopefully you've learned more about the muscles and the motions involved in shooting a free throw. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.